the external shell and internals of the shell have almost been completely done already. We've done a further detailing in terms of the panel lines that have been molded into the shell. Using fine black paint and a paintbrush, we've painted through these lines just to make sure that there's that additional detail that you can see. In addition, I've realized that the ride height is about as low as we can go, unfortunately, and that's a result of the various linkages fouling against the chassis. You can see that we've also got the cages installed already, the roll cage, the rear bumper has been installed, lights, etc. all in place already. The interior has also been completed. I've added the figures already, and I'll do another video in relation to action figures that I use. You can see that it's a full interior, which I really like, because then I don't have to chop the action figures up in any way whatsoever. The one problem in relation to this specific shell was that the doors are supposed to be closed by little magnets that sit at the top. And these are just not strong enough to hold the doors in place. So as a result of that, I had to add some rubber that I spray painted and glued to the doors that will hold the doors closed when the doors are shut. Ride height has been lowered about as far as we can get on this specific shell, and it was accomplished by the installation of the lower shock mount onto the linkage point, as opposed to having it mounted where the shocks would normally be. And that was only allowable on the front shocks. The rear shocks were already mounted in the lower position and as such did not need any further modification. Opening up of the gearbox, etc. also revealed that the chassis has been fully greased, and that was an added bonus. In terms of electronics, I'll be using the AXE Wing ESC and motor combination. This is running a very low kV motor, simply because this will be used for crawling videos more than anything else. It will be tied to the Power HD servo, and this servo has got pretty good torque specs, but again, it's just made out of a plastic material, and this plastic material is not the strongest thing, but again, given that this is just for scale driving, it's acceptable. I'll be linking that up with my standard Futaba 4-channel receiver that ties back to my Futaba 4PX transmitter. The final thing that I will be adding is a light system, the UF7 Rock Crawler kit. So let's get to installing these now, and then hopefully be able to start running this truck. So as you can see, the electronics were finally installed onto the chassis, and I've pretty much got the car moving, set up the way I wanted, ride height correct, and all operational, lights, etc. The key things to take note of is when doing the electronics, I'm always very, very particular about the wiring. In the case of the Wing AXE, it comes with a very unusual motor sensor cable, and that means that you have to buy very specific cables if you want to position the AXE ESC anywhere further than pretty much right next to the motor. This caused a bit of a problem because in the end I had to glue the ESC onto the steering servo so that it was close enough to the motor. Good in that the wires for the motor to the ESC were very short, but caused a bit of a problem because I was hoping to initially put a scale engine underneath the bonnet, but now there's just not enough space. Other things to take note of is in wiring anything up, you always want to make sure that you clear all the moving parts so the wires don't get eaten up. And in this case, you've got the open teeth here that sit right near these wires for me. So because of that, I had made sure that I very carefully pulled the wires away from the spur gear. Along with that, I had to make sure that the cables for the battery were easily accessible from underneath the vehicle so that I could always unplug them without having to take the shell off. And these are all things that you always want to be thinking about when you're wiring up the system. Again, all the wires out of the way of the drivetrain, out of the way of suspension, pulled into here. I've got this one cable here as well, and this cable attaches to the lighting system in the body shell. So it's easily plugged into the body shell, and at the same time, if I take the body shell off, it's easily pulled away from the chassis, which then makes the attachment or removal of the body shell very easy and a very clean affair when it comes to servicing the chassis or taking the battery out. So the basic build has pretty much come to an end. Whether or not I add refinements and do certain other things such as change the wheels, the tires, add a bit more detail to the shell itself, that's all coming in due course. But overall, I've finally done the first run, as some of the earlier video will show. I've just done a quick drive around the house, unfortunately due to the restrictions of being able to go out with COVID-19. Quite happy with how the travel works given how low I've got the chassis. In order to get the car as low as I could using the Boom Racing chassis, the rear end actually was quite okay. Once weighted down with the body shell, I was quite happy with that. The front end unfortunately had some limitations due to the panhard and the steering linkage. So in order to get the car as low as possible, I ended up changing both the panhard and the steering linkage with bent links, as you can see here and here. So these bent linkages provided me with additional clearance when this axle came up, hitting here. It was now no longer hitting, and at the same time the exact same thing for the rear panhard. So that's effectively how we got this chassis sitting this low. Overall, very happy with the build. Drives well. Using the Wing AXE system, I'm able to control and modulate the cruising much better for purposes of video making. So it works to a T. This is what I wanted to use this specific Land Rover for. So I can't be happier. In the rear, I'm not yet decided whether I'll keep this specific bumper. The reason being that I do want to mount the trailer as well at times and pull the trailer, and I'm not too sure that I want to be drilling into this specific bumper. I've got other bumpers that I can use, and I may do that. I will add one more cage to this rear window, and then I think I'll be able to call it done as far as this specific build is concerned for the time being. As we all know, no build is ever done. I hope you guys enjoy the very short video that I took of the vehicle driving around in front of the house, and look forward to seeing your comments what I should be doing in terms of the D110 build that will come next. A number of my friends have suggested to me to perhaps do a camel build. To be honest, I feel that a camel build is a bit overdone. There are too many of those, and I was thinking of a more sinister looking twin cab, but I do like the idea that a camel build can be weathered, can be made to look old, whereas something like this I much prefer to keep it looking clean and new. So we'll have to wait and see. I may end up just building the D110 twin cab as if it's a more sinister looking modern vehicle, and then do one more D110 for a camel build. We'll wait and see. Anyway, I do hope that you all enjoyed following me on this little build. It worked out quite nicely using the Boom Racing chassis, the Team Raffee body shell, and the action figures are from NECA. Looking to do a one level up build on the D110. Let's wait and see how that one goes. But in the meantime, thank you very much for following me on this build.